I never thought I'd be the kind of person to offer my apartment to my sister. Yet, here I was, watching Michaela bounce around my pristine living room like an overexcited puppy, touching everything in sight. My name is Tabitha, and I've spent most of my life being the responsible one, the careful one, the one who gets overlooked. Oh my God, Tab, this view is incredible! Michaela pressed her hands against my floor-to-ceiling windows, leaving smudges I'd have to clean later. I can't believe you've been holding out on me all this time. I forced a smile, clutching my carry-on handle tighter. It's just for a week while I'm at the conference. Please try to keep everything in order. Yeah, I know. Don't worry so much. She flopped onto my white leather sofa, already pulling out her phone. You're such a control freak sometimes. My best friend Zariah's warning from lunch echoed in my head. Girl, giving Michaela an inch is like giving a vampire an invitation. She'll drain you dry. But Michaela had seemed so desperate when she called, crying about losing her influencer contracts and needing a place to stay. Just a week, she'd promised, just until she could figure things out. The spare key is on the counter, I said, checking my watch. I've written down all the building protocols, garbage disposal rules, and... Tabitha. Michaela rolled her eyes. I'm 26, not 6. I think I can handle staying in an apartment for a few days without burning it down. My phone buzzed. My Uber had arrived. As I headed for the door, Michaela jumped up to hug me, her expensive perfume overwhelming my senses. You're the best sister ever, she whispered. I know we've had our differences, but I really appreciate this. Something in her tone made my stomach twist, but I pushed the feeling aside. This was progress, right? Maybe we were finally moving past our childhood competition, the constant comparisons, the way our mother always... No, I wasn't going there. Not now. Just remember, I said, pulling away. I'll be back next Friday, and please don't... Go through your stuff or rearrange anything, she finished, grinning. I promise to be a perfect houseguest. The Uber honked outside. I grabbed my luggage and hurried out, trying to ignore the nagging feeling that I was making a mistake. 3 days into the conference, my phone lit up with a voicemail from my mother. Tabitha, darling. Her voice dripped with artificial sweetness. I just wanted to say how wonderful it is that you're helping your sister get back on her feet. Michaela's been showing me around your apartment. It's a bit sterile for my taste, but she has such wonderful ideas for brightening it up. Call me when you can. We need to discuss your living arrangements when you return. My living arrangements? I called Michaela immediately. She didn't pick up until the 4th try. Hey, sis! Background noise suggested she was at a party. Everything's great here, don't worry. Why is Mom talking about my living arrangements? Oh, that. She laughed, the sound slightly slurred. Well, since you're never really home anyway, and I need a fresh start, we thought maybe I could take over the lease for a while. You know, just until I get back on my feet. You could stay with friends or something. The conference room around me started spinning. Michaela, that's not... Sorry, can't hear you. Bad connection. She hung up. I stared at my phone, my hands shaking. This was classic Michaela, taking an inch and claiming a mile. But surely she wouldn't actually... My phone buzzed again. A text from Flynn, my building security manager. Miss Harrison, there's been unusual activity in the lobby. Multiple furniture deliveries for your unit. Should I allow them up? Before I could respond, another message appeared, this time from my father. Your mother says you're finally doing the right thing for your sister. proud of you for putting family first." I sat down hard in my chair, my presentation notes scattered across the table forgotten. The familiar feeling of being steamrolled by my family crashed over me, but this time, something else rose with it. Something hot and sharp and dangerous, because what my family didn't know, what no one except Zariah and Flynn knew, was that I didn't just rent that apartment, I owned the entire building, and I was done being the good sister who gave everything away. The elevator doors opened to chaos. My pristine hallway was littered with cardboard boxes, and the door to my apartment stood wide open. Music blasted from inside. Some pop song Michaela probably called her anthem. I stepped over a box labeled Tab's Old Stuff and froze in the doorway. My carefully curated living room had been transformed into something out of a teenage influencer's Pinterest board. Hot pink throw pillows covered my leather sofa. Fairy lights draped every wall. And there, in the center of it all, stood my mother, directing two moving men who were carrying out my antique coffee table. "Oh!" She spotted me, her perfectly lined lips forming an O of mock surprise. "Tabitha, darling, we weren't expecting you until Friday." "I caught an early flight." My voice sounded distant, even to myself. "What are you doing with my furniture?" "Now, don't get upset." She approached with that patronizing smile I knew too well. "Michaela needs a fresh start, and your minimalist aesthetic wasn't really serving anyone. We're just making some necessary improvements." Necessary improvements? I watched as the movers disappeared down the hallway with my table. "That's a family heirloom from grandmother." "Which is exactly why it should go to someone who'll appreciate it properly." Michaela appeared from my bedroom, wearing one of my designer blazers. "I mean, you barely spend time here anyway, right? Always at work, work, work." "Take off my clothes." My hands clenched into fists. "And get out of my apartment. Tabitha!" My mother's voice sharpened. "Don't be selfish. Your sister needs—" "My sister needs to leave. Now." "Actually," my father emerged from the kitchen, coffee mug in hand like he owned the place. "We've been talking about this as a family. You're always saying you want to focus on your career. This is the perfect opportunity. Michaela can take over your lease, and you can find a nice little studio closer to your office." I stared at him. "You've been talking about this as a family? Without me?" "Oh, honey." My mother patted my arm. "You're always so busy. We didn't want to bother you with the details." "Details?" I jerked away from her touch. "You mean the details of stealing my home?" "Nobody's stealing anything." Michaela rolled her eyes, already scrolling through her phone. "God, you're so dramatic. I need this place for my comeback. My followers are expecting a glow-up reveal next week." "Your followers?" The laugh that escaped me didn't sound entirely sane. "This is my apartment." "Was your apartment," my mother corrected. "Michaela's already spoken to the building management about transferring the lease. They were very understanding about her situation." "Were they?" I pulled out my phone, my fingers trembling as I opened my messages. "Flynn, please come to Unit 1205. Now." "Who's Flynn?" Michaela frowned. "The building's security manager." I met her eyes. "Who works for me?" "Works for you?" My father lowered his coffee mug. "What are you talking about?" Heavy footsteps approached in the hallway. Flynn appeared in the doorway, his imposing frame filling the space. "Everything all right, Miss Harrison?" "No," I said quietly. "These people are trespassing." Please escort them out." "Now wait just a minute." My mother's voice rose. "We are your family. You can't—" "Miss Harrison," Flynn interrupted. "Would you like me to call the police?" "Miss Harrison?" Michaela's smirk finally faltered. "Why is he calling you that?" I walked to my desk and pulled out a folder I'd never thought I'd need to show them. "Because I own this building, the whole building, have owned it for 3 years. The silence that followed was deafening. My mother's face went pale. My father's coffee mug slipped from his hand, shattering on my hardwood floors. Michaela laughed nervously. "You're lying. You can't. You don't." I slid the property deed across the counter. "Get out of my apartment. You have 1 hour to return everything you've moved and remove all your things. After that, I'm pressing charges." "You wouldn't dare," my mother whispered. "We're your family." "Family?" I met her gaze steadily. "Family doesn't steal. Family doesn't manipulate. Family doesn't try to make their daughter homeless because their favorite child wants a new Instagram backdrop. You think you're so much better than me!" Michaela spat, finally showing her true colors. "Just because you got lucky with some property deal." "Lucky?" I cut her off. "I worked for this. Every single day while you were living off Mom and Dad's credit cards, I was building something of my own. And now you're standing in my building, wearing my clothes, trying to steal my home." I turned to Flynn. "Please remove them. All of them." As Flynn stepped forward, Michaela's face twisted with rage. "You'll regret this! You think karma doesn't come for people like you?" I watched as security led my family away, their protests echoing down the hallway. "Karma," I whispered to the empty apartment. "Karma's already here." I sat in my car in the underground parking garage, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. The silence pressed against my ears like a physical weight. Upstairs, Flynn was supervising as my family gathered their things, but I couldn't watch anymore. Couldn't breathe up there. My phone buzzed. "Zariah." "Tell me you didn't actually let her stay in your apartment," she said, without preamble. I laughed, the sound catching in my throat. "You were right. God, you were so right. What happened? Do I need to come over? Do we need wine?" "They tried to take everything." My voice cracked. "Not just the apartment. My furniture, my clothes. They were going to make me homeless, Z. My own family." "I'm coming over." "No." I wiped my eyes, smearing expensive mascara across my fingers. "I need to handle this myself. I keep thinking about that scholarship." "The one to Oxford?" "Yeah." I closed my eyes and suddenly I was 18 again, standing in our family kitchen with an acceptance letter in my trembling hands. "Mom! Dad, I got in! Full academic scholarship!" I'd been vibrating with excitement, dreams of studying abroad finally within reach. My mother hadn't even looked up from her magazine. "That's nice, dear, but you know we can't afford the living expenses. Besides, Michaela's starting her modeling career. She'll need support here. I could work part-time," I'd suggested. "Maybe take out a loan." "Don't be silly," my father had cut in. "You're not going to burden this family with debt. Be practical, Tabitha. The local university is perfectly fine." 2 months later, they'd paid for Michaela's emergency nose job without blinking. A sharp knock on my car window yanked me back to the present. Flynn stood there, his expression concerned. I rolled down the window. "Are they gone?" "Almost. But Miss Harrison, there's something you should see." Upstairs, My apartment looked like a war zone, boxes everywhere, furniture askew and there, on my pristine white walls. She keyed the walls? I stared at the long scratches Michaela had left, spelling out bitch in 6-foot letters. She actually keyed the walls? I've documented everything, Flynn said quietly. For the police report. Police report, I repeated, running my fingers along the gouges in my wall. Something inside me shifted, hardened. No, not yet. I pulled out my phone and opened my banking app. 3 years of careful investments had left me with resources my family couldn't imagine. Resources I'd never used against them. Until now. Flynn, I need a contractor here tomorrow to repair these walls. And I need you to change every access code in the building. Then, call our lawyers. Already done, Miss Harrison. Except the lawyers. Would you like me to contact them now? I nodded, already typing a message to Zariah. She worked at the city's top real estate law firm, and I needed her expertise. One more thing, I said as Flynn turned to leave. My sister's going to try to spin this on social media. She has a decent following. Would you like us to get ahead of it? No. I smiled, and it felt dangerous. Let her dig her own grave. My phone buzzed with a text from Archer, my coworker. Saw your sister's Instagram story. You okay? I clicked the link he'd sent. There was Michaela, tears streaming perfectly down her face, telling her followers how her mentally unstable sister had thrown her out on the streets. The comments were already flooding in. Poor baby. How could anyone do that to family? What a toxic sister! I should have felt angry. Instead, I felt calm, clearer than I had in years. I opened my laptop and logged into my building's management system. With a few clicks, I disabled Michaela's temporary access card. Then, I sent an email to all residents, warning them about a potential security breach and unauthorized social media posts about the building. My phone rang again. Zariah. I just saw her post, she said. Want me to destroy her? Not yet. I watched through my window as my family loaded the last of their things into their cars. Michaela was still filming, playing up her victim role. Let's see how deep she wants to dig this hole. You know they're going to escalate. I know. I touched the scratches on my wall again. But this time, I'm ready. This time I'm not the one who's going to end up bleeding. As their cars pulled away, I saw Michaela look up at my window. Even from 15 floors up, I could see her mouth the words, "This isn't over." No, I whispered, watching them disappear into traffic. It's just beginning. The next morning, I woke to 37 missed calls and a crowd in my lobby. Michaela had rallied her followers, about 24 young influencers with phones raised, live streaming what they probably thought was justice in action. Miss Harrison! Flynn's voice crackled through my intercom. Your family is attempting to force entry. Should I call the police? I watched through my security feed as my mother worked the crowd, dabbing at her eyes with a monogrammed handkerchief. Michaela stood front and center, still wearing my blazer, performing for her audience. Not yet, I replied, straightening my spine. I'm coming down. The elevator ride felt like descending into battle. When the doors opened, the phones all swiveled toward me, and the live stream comments exploded. There she is! Michaela's voice carried across the lobby. The sister who would rather see her family homeless than share her privilege. I walked calmly to the front desk, heels clicking on marble. You're trespassing. Again. It's a public lobby. my father argued, but I could see uncertainty in his eyes. Actually, I kept my voice level. It's private property. My private property. Stop lying. Michaela's voice cracked dramatically. You're just a tenant. I spoke to management yesterday. You spoke to my employee, I corrected, who reported directly to me. A murmur went through the crowd. Some phones lowered slightly. She's delusional, my mother announced to her captive audience. She's always been jealous of Michaela's success, always trying to compete. Success? I couldn't help but laugh. Let's talk about success, Mom. Let's talk about how I bought this building 3 years ago while Michaela was still maxing out your credit cards. Prove it, Michaela challenged, but I saw fear flicker across her face. I nodded to Flynn, who projected the building's ownership documents onto the lobby's display screen. There it was, in black and white. My name, my company, my signature. The crowd's murmur grew louder. Phones started turning away from me and toward Michaela. This is harassment, my mother tried, but her voice had lost its conviction. No, I stepped closer. Harassment is keying walls. Harassment is trying to steal someone's home. Harassment is lying to thousands of followers about being homeless when you have a perfectly good room at Mom and Dad's mansion. Michaela's face flushed. You don't understand. I needed a backdrop for your Instagram? I finished. A free ride, like always. Tell me, did you mention to your followers that you tried to steal my apartment while I was away on business? That you destroyed my property? That you're wearing my clothes right now? The live stream comments were turning. Wait, what? She tried to steal her sister's apartment. Is that true about the walls? Flynn, I called, without taking my eyes off my sister. Please show them the security footage from yesterday. The lobby screen switched to crystal clear video of Michaela keying my walls, laughing as she did it. The crowd gasped. That's not... I didn't... Michaela's carefully constructed facade cracked. You're twisting everything. Am I? I turned to address her followers directly. Everything I'm saying is documented. Everything she's saying is a performance. You decide who's twisting things. This isn't about social media, my father burst out. This is about family. Finally, I said quietly. Something we agree on. This is about family, about how you always chose her, always protected her, always made excuses for her. And now you're mad because for once, someone's saying no. We gave you everything, my mother hissed, dropping the grieving parent act. No. I met her gaze steadily. You gave her everything. I built this myself. And now I'm done watching you try to take it. I nodded to Flynn, who opened the front doors. You have 30 seconds to leave voluntarily. After that, the police will remove you for criminal trespassing. Your choice. The influencers were already backing away, some muttering apologies, others furiously editing their live streams. My father grabbed my mother's arm, trying to pull her toward the door. But Michaela stood her ground. You think you've won. You think this makes you powerful. No, I said softly. What makes me powerful is that I don't need to think anything. I just need to own the truth. And this building. She took a step toward me, hand raised, but Flynn was faster. In one smooth motion, he stepped between us. Miss Harrison? He asked, eyes on Michaela. Should I call the police now? I watched my sister's face contort with helpless rage, and for the first time in my life, I felt no guilt, no need to smooth things over. Yes, I said clearly, making sure every remaining phone caught my words. Call them. It's time everyone saw the truth about my family. The police arrived within minutes. I stood quietly, answering their questions while my family created exactly the scene I knew they would. Michaela wept dramatically for her dwindling audience. My mother attempted to charm the officers. My father tried to minimize everything as a simple family misunderstanding. But security footage doesn't lie. "Ma'am," one officer said, reviewing the vandalism video on his tablet, "would you like to press charges?" Before I could answer, my mother rushed forward. "Tabitha, please, think about what this will do to our family's reputation." "Our reputation?" I raised an eyebrow. "Or Michaela's influencer career?" "You vindictive little—" Michaela started forward, but the officer stepped between us. "Miss, that's enough," he warned. "You're already facing potential charges. Don't make it worse." Zariah chose that moment to stride through the lobby doors, briefcase in hand. "Sorry I'm late. Traffic was horrible." She surveyed the scene with practiced eyes. "I see the circus is still in town." "Who are you?" my mother demanded. "Zariah Bond, legal counsel." She pulled out a stack of documents. "And I have here a cease and desist order, a restraining order petition, and documentation of property damage that my client would like to file." "You can't be serious!" my father sputtered. "Tabitha, this is ridiculous. We're your parents." "Parents?" I felt something snap inside me. "Let's talk about parenting. Let's talk about the college fund you drained for Michaela's failed modeling career, or the time you told me I was attention-seeking when I broke my arm and needed surgery. Or maybe we should discuss how you're standing here right now, defending the daughter who tried to steal my home." "We were trying to help her," my mother protested. "By hurting me?" My voice was steady, but my hands shook. "That's always been the equation, hasn't it? Michaela needs help, so Tabitha needs to sacrifice. Michaela needs support, so Tabitha needs to step aside. Michaela needs. "I earned it," Michaela shouted. "I'm the one with talent, with followers, with—" "Tabitha? With what?" I cut her off. "With our parents' money? With stolen designer clothes? With a fake life you broadcast to strangers while trying to make your sister homeless?" The remaining influencers' phones captured every word. I could practically see Michaela's career crumbling in real time. "Officers," Zariah stepped forward. "My client would like to proceed with charges." "No!" My mother grabbed my arm. "You can't do this to your sister, to us!" I jerked away from her touch. "I'm not doing anything to you. These are the consequences of your own actions. For once in your lives, you're going to face them." "Miss," the officer turned to Michaela, "please put your hands behind your back." As they read Michaela her rights, my father made one last attempt. "Think about the family name," he pleaded. "Think about your mother's social circle, your sister's future." "I have thought about it," I said quietly. "I've thought about it every time you chose her over me. Every time you dismissed my achievements because they weren't flashy enough for social media. Every time you treated me like I was nothing more than Michaela's backup plan." "But we're blood," my mother whispered, tears finally looking genuine. "Blood." I laughed softly. "Blood doesn't excuse abuse, Mom. Blood doesn't make theft okay. Blood doesn't give Michaela the right to destroy what I've built." As the officers led Michaela toward the door, she twisted around to face me. "You'll regret this. When you're alone with your precious building and your pathetic life, you'll realize what you've done." "No," I said. watching her mascara run down her face. I already know exactly what I've done. I've finally stood up to the people who taught me I deserved to be invisible. The lobby fell silent as they led my sister away. My parents stood frozen, their carefully constructed world crumbling around them. "Zariah," I said, without looking away from them. "Please make sure the restraining order covers the entire building, and send copies of all documentation to their country club board. I believe they have strict policies about members facing criminal charges." My mother's face went pale. "You wouldn't—" "I would. I am." I straightened my shoulders. "You taught me well, remember? You taught me that family means taking what you want, no matter who it hurts. I just learned the lesson differently than you intended." As security escorted them out, I heard my mother's last desperate whisper. "What happened to you?" I watched them disappear through the doors, feeling lighter than I had in years. "Nothing happened to me," I said to the empty lobby. "I just finally happened to you." The story exploded overnight. Buck's apartment gate trended on Twitter, with leaked security footage showing Michaela's tantrum playing on repeat. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with notifications from reporters seeking comments. "You need to see this," Zariah said, barging into my office the next morning. She dropped a thick folder on my desk. "Remember when I said I'd look into why Michaela suddenly needed a place to stay?" I flipped open the folder and froze. "She embezzled money from her best friend's trust fund." Zariah tapped the legal documents. "She convinced Amanda, you remember her, the oil heiress, to let her invest $500,000 in some sketchy crypto scheme. Surprise, surprise, the money vanished. And she needed my apartment to hide from the fallout," I finished, pieces clicking into place. "That's why she was so desperate. Amanda's lawyers have been trying to track her down. They're filing charges next week." Zariah's phone buzzed. "Oh, and your parents just got kicked out of the country club. Something about behavior unbecoming of members." I should have felt satisfied. Instead, I just felt tired. "What happens now?" "Now?" Zariah grinned. "Now you go home and enjoy your apartment, and maybe answer that text from Archer that you've been ignoring." I glanced at my phone. Archer had indeed texted several times. "Saw the news. You okay?" "That security footage was wild." "Coffee tomorrow?" "No pressure, just want to check on you." Archer and I had always had something. Chemistry disguised as friendly competition, lingering looks in meetings, almost moments at office parties. But I'd kept him at arm's length, too focused on building my empire to risk complications. "He's been asking about you," Zariah pressed. "And don't think I haven't noticed how you light up when he's around." "I can't think about that right now." I stood up, gathering my things. "I need to—" My office door burst open. Flynn stood there, looking unusually concerned. "Miss Harrison, there's a situation in the lobby." The elevator ride down felt endless. When the doors opened, I understood Flynn's worry. Amanda, Michaela's former best friend, stood in my lobby, surrounded by lawyers. "Tabitha," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm so sorry. I had no idea she was staying here. If I'd known sooner—" "It's not your fault." I led her to a private conference room, away from prying eyes. "Michaela manipulates everyone." "She took everything," Amanda whispered. "My trust fund, my passwords, even my boyfriend. She said she was investing it in our future, but she was just being Michaela." I finished softly. "Trust me, I understand." One of Amanda's lawyers cleared his throat. Miss Harrison, we'd like to add your evidence to our case. The pattern of manipulation and theft could help establish intent. I thought about Michaela, probably sitting in our parents' mansion right now, plotting her comeback. Take everything, I said. Security footage, documentation, all of it. My phone buzzed again. Archer. I'm in your building's coffee shop. No pressure, but I have chocolate croissants and a sympathetic ear if you need one. For once, I didn't overthink it. Amanda, excuse me for a moment. There's someone I need to see. I found Archer at a corner table, 2 coffee cups and a paper bag in front of him. He stood when he saw me, his face showing nothing but concern. Hey, he said simply. Rough week? I laughed, and suddenly tears were threatening. You could say that. Sit. He pulled out a chair. Eat chocolate. Tell me everything or nothing. Your choice. Why are you here? I asked instead. Because I've watched you work miracles for 3 years while asking for nothing in return. Because you're brilliant and fierce and deserve someone in your corner who isn't paid to be there. He pushed a coffee toward me. And because I've wanted to have coffee with you since that conference in Seattle, but you always had walls up. I still have walls up. Good. He smiled. They've protected you this far, but maybe they can have a door, one that opens occasionally, for chocolate croissants and conversation. My phone buzzed again, another reporter wanting comments about Michaela. I turned it face down. You know what? I took the coffee he offered. I think I'm done letting my sister dictate my life choices, even the good ones I've been avoiding. Good choices like coffee with handsome co-workers? Don't push it, I said, but I was smiling. For the first time in weeks, I was really smiling. Sometimes karma doesn't just come for the villains in your story. Sometimes it brings unexpected gifts for the heroes, too. 3 weeks later, I stood in front of a mirror, adjusting my dress for the annual Business Leadership Gala. The event honored the city's top entrepreneurs, and this year I'd been nominated for Innovator of the Year. The irony wasn't lost on me. My family had finally made me visible, just not in the way they'd intended. You look amazing, Archer said from the doorway of my newly renovated apartment. He'd been a constant presence these past weeks, bringing coffee during contractor visits and making me laugh when things got overwhelming. Ready? He asked, offering his arm. The gala venue glittered with city lights and success stories. As we walked in, I caught snippets of conversations about my family's scandal, Michaela's criminal charges, my parents' social exile, Amanda's lawsuit making headlines. Tabitha! Speaking of Amanda, she waved us over to her table. You have to see this. She held up her phone, showing a live stream from outside. There, looking considerably less polished than her Instagram persona, stood my sister. Should I call security? Archer tensed beside me. Wait, I said, watching the screen. Michaela's designer clothes were gone, replaced by department store basics. Her perfect makeup couldn't hide the dark circles under her eyes. She paced the sidewalk, talking to her phone. I just need to talk to my sister, she was saying. I know I messed up. I know I hurt people. But Tabitha, if you're watching this, please. 5 minutes. Amanda scoffed. After everything she did? I stood up. I'll handle this. Want backup? Archer asked quietly. No. I squeezed his hand. This is something I need to do alone. Outside, the night air was crisp with early autumn. Michaela's head snapped up when she heard my heels on concrete. Tab, she breathed. You came. You have 4 minutes, I said, checking my watch. Make them count. I'm sorry. The words tumbled out. I'm sorry for the apartment, for the walls, for everything with Amanda. Mom and Dad, they always made it seem okay to just take what I wanted, like the world owed me something. That's not an excuse. I know. She wrapped her arms around herself. They're not talking to me anymore. Dad's firm is investigating missing funds, and Mom says I ruined everything. You did. Yeah. She laughed bitterly. Turns out I'm really good at destroying things. Better than I ever was at creating anything real. I studied her face, really looked at her for the first time in years. Behind the practiced poses and perfect angles, my little sister looked lost, broken, real. Why did you do it? I asked. Not just the apartment, all of it. Why did you always have to take everything I had? Because you had something I never did, she whispered. Control, purpose. You always knew who you were, what you wanted. I was just empty, playing pretend in designer clothes. And now? Now? She gestured to herself, mascara smearing as she wiped her eyes. Now I'm facing criminal charges. My followers have abandoned me. My best friend hates me. My parents won't return my calls. I have nothing left to pretend with. Good, I said quietly. Her head snapped up. Good, yes, because maybe now you can finally build something real, something that's actually yours. I wouldn't even know where to start. Start by taking responsibility. Pay back what you stole. Face the consequences. Stop performing for social media and figure out who you are without an audience. She was quiet for a long moment. Will you ever forgive me? I don't know, I answered honestly. But I do know this. I'm done carrying your weight. Done smoothing things over. Done making myself smaller so you can feel bigger. I really am sorry, she whispered. I believe you. I turned back toward the venue. But sorry doesn't fix things, Michaela. Actions do. Tab? She called as I reached the door. For what it's worth, I'm proud of you. For standing up to all of us. For building something real. I paused, hand on the handle. Goodbye, Michaela. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. Inside, Archer waited with concern etched on his face. Everything okay? I looked around the room, at Amanda chatting with her lawyers, at Zariah arriving with a supportive smile, at the award I was about to receive for building something entirely my own. Yeah, I said, taking his hand. Everything's exactly as it should be. Sometimes the hardest part of standing up for yourself isn't facing your enemies. It's facing the broken pieces of what you once called family, and being strong enough to walk away. The autumn breeze carried the scent of fresh paint as I unlocked my apartment door. The contractors had finally finished erasing every trace of Michaela's damage, transforming my space into something entirely new, something wholly mine. Last box, Archer announced, setting down a container labeled Old Photos. Though I still think you should let me help you sort through these. Actually, I said, surprising myself, maybe you should. We sat on my new couch, charcoal grey, not white leather, and opened the box. Childhood photos spilled out, forced family portraits, dance recitals where Michaela took center stage, graduations where my parents looked bored. You never smile in these, Archer observed, holding up a Christmas photo. I learned early to stay quiet, stay small. I picked up a photo of Michaela's sweet 16, me in the background, already fading away. Funny how you can disappear even when you're right there. My phone buzzed. A news alert. Amanda's case against Michaela had been settled out of court. The terms weren't public, but I knew from Amanda's lawyer that Michaela had agreed to full restitution. Speaking of disappearing, Archer nodded at my phone. Have you heard from your parents? They sent a letter. I pulled it from my desk, still unopened. Probably another attempt at manipulation. Or maybe closure. Zariah's voice came from my doorway. She walked in, dropping her briefcase. Sorry, door was open, but you should read it. I don't need... Yes, you do. She sat beside me. Read it. End this chapter properly. With slightly shaking hands, I opened the envelope. Tabitha, your father and I are selling the house. The scandal has made it impossible to maintain our position in society, and his firm's investigation has left us with few options. We failed you, not just with the apartment incident, but throughout your life. We poured everything into Michaela's brightness and missed the quiet strength you were building. We dismissed your achievements because they didn't fit our narrative of success. You deserved better, parents. We cannot undo the past, but we can finally acknowledge the truth. You are extraordinary, not despite our neglect, but because you refuse to let it define you. We don't expect forgiveness. We just wanted you to know that we see you now. We always should have. Mom. Well, I said, setting down the letter. That's new. Are you okay? Archer asked softly. Before I could answer, Flynn appeared in my doorway. Miss Harrison, the new security system is ready for final approval, and... He hesitated. There's a package from your sister. The package was small, wrapped in plain brown paper. Inside, I found my grandmother's antique locket, the one Michaela had borrowed years ago and never returned. A note fell out. This always belonged to you. Like so many things I took. I'm starting therapy next week. Real therapy, not Instagram life coaching. Maybe someday I'll learn how to build something instead of stealing it. Emma. I closed my fingers around the locket, feeling its familiar weight. You know what? I stood up suddenly. Let's go to the roof. The rooftop garden had been my first renovation project after buying the building. Now, as the sun set over the city, it felt like the perfect place for endings and beginnings. To new chapters, Archer raised his wine glass. To building things, Zariah added. To being seen, I said quietly. My phone buzzed one last time, a message from Amanda. Court settlement final. Moving forward. Thank you for showing me what real strength looks like. I looked around at my chosen family. Zariah with her fierce loyalty, Archer with his patient understanding, even Flynn standing guard by the door. Then I looked out at my building, my city, my life that I'd built piece by careful piece. Some people think revenge means destroying your enemies, I said, touching the locket at my throat. But sometimes the best revenge is building something so beautiful, so completely yours, that they can't help but see what they missed. To beautiful revenge. Archer clinked his glass against mine. No, I corrected, leaning into his warmth. To beautiful beginnings. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in colors no Instagram filter could capture. Somewhere across town, my parents packed up their mansion. Somewhere else, Michaela faced her first day without a social media audience. And here, in this moment, I was exactly where I needed to be. Not everyone gets a happy ending. Some of us get something better. We get to write our own story, build our own home, choose our own family. We get to decide what happiness looks like. And sometimes, if we're brave enough to claim it, we get to be the heroes of our own quiet victories.